Good evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome out to Monday Night Chat. And John and I decided we come to you tonight to give you a little lowdown, give you a little lesson learned, and maybe you can learn from our mistakes. Definitely hope that all happens tonight. But I do want to thank you very much again for taking your time out of your Monday evening to join us. Or if you're watching this later, well, time out of your Thursday morning coffee break. I mean, whatever happens to be the case. John, if you're getting some interesting messages from him, he quickly found out that if he puts a comment one place, it goes 7 spots. So if you're like, who's he talking to? Like, there's no text there. It's because John's just being fancy with his program.
Yo, Facebook people. Yeah, I'm going to send that one.
John,
it'll be fun.
I think with your kids, they would teach you how to be a little bit more.
No. We're just having fun.
Yeah.
Yo, you.
Oh, you actually typed that in your. I got you now.
Exactly. Again, send it to all tonight because we got a lot of stuff going on. So, okay, so we want to do that. We're going to go through our 5 things, and then after that, we'll get that knocked out right away quick for those of you who want us to get into content. And then after that, we'll kind of riff a little bit about some of the past events here. We've had a few events since so far in this early season, and we can kind of talk about some good and some bad in kind of the latter part of the show. So, excellent. So let's get into it. Dan, we had a list.
Yes.
A list, and is it going to pop up for me?
It is for me.
Okay.
I think.
So which one do we want to start with? Grab one of them and while I'm bringing that list up, and then we can talk about which disaster.
Well, the very first idea is if you're going fishing and there's a lightning storm, don't do it with a metal boat. But that had nothing to do with weddings.
But let's review this because there's an applicable part to this, which is not part of our five tonight. This past weekend in a tent. And of course, the tents are big metal poles, big aluminum poles all the way through. And in this particular case, I was looking at this because we had a thunderstorm that was brewing out west, about 2 hours of us. I'm looking at this. So you've got this particular one had 6 little spires or whatever you would call these little peaks or points. And that's a big, 12-foot aluminum pole there. And then it's on this cross thing with of cables, which are metal cables, into a metal turnbuckle into the corner, which is down another. So we've got aluminum standing up there a good 20, 25 feet high, and we have thunder and lightning coming in from about 2 hours away, that distance. And it was continually building, but it never got any closer. And I'm thinking to myself, where does our I don't want to say liability, but maybe we'll use that word. Where's our responsibility as DJs, because obviously I'm one of the few sober ones in the tent, to be able to go and look at the weather and say, and when I was coaching or even officiating, as soon as you saw a flash in the sky, we're out of here. You're off the field. That's just, I'm sure you've run into the same thing with Little League and things.
Yeah.
where as a DJ. I mean, let's face it, that would be the ultimate, not ultimate disaster, but one of the big ultimate disasters if all of a sudden we have, and we have, all of a sudden people with, spiky hair, especially if they didn't have any hair. Now they have spiky hair because of lightning. And I just wonder, and that's something I'd be really interested to hear what you guys are thinking. Where does, where we should be saying, can we leave that decision to a bride and groom who may be intoxicated and impaired to say, oh, yes, we can keep going? I struggled with that one because not that my bride and groom in this particular case weren't drinking, so there wouldn't have been a problem. They would have been the first ones to get people out of the tent. But I have been at those weddings where, we're having a great time, and they're very intoxicated, and it's like, oh, that's at least 10 miles, 20 miles away. Why should we? Yeah, lightning can do weird things.
Yeah. I wonder from the tent companies, I mean, do they, you would think that with that type of a setup, are these getting struck? Because oftentimes they're put up a couple days in advance and something could come through. You don't really hear them talking about damage to them. I have a friend of mine, one of the venues I work at often, they've probably got 4 or 5 different tents that they will often put up. And the only thing I've heard of has been like not quite hurricane strength, but like something very close to it that just ripped the whole thing and sent it.
Yeah.
But nothing like taking lightning strikes. So I wonder, does this even happen? Would it be something we'd have to worry about? Because it's not like being open, like Little League or when you're talking about coaching and being in the field.
Yeah, I just don't know. This is an interesting area, and I probably should spend more time looking at that because the wind, that's an easy one, and heavy rain, most of the tents can handle that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I wouldn't jump to any conclusions. I think our not liability, but our responsibility. There we go. Lies more on the fact that we're the sober person more so than that we're the DJ / leading the party.
Yeah, that probably that sober person is what we're after. So, so after that, we'll pass on the boat. One of the things that I had was it 3 weeks ago is our first disaster is and I just referred to it in the notes as an overheated bride. In that particular case, I had a bride who who's getting it was a hot, humid day. She wasn't in the greatest physical condition. And she had started some early signs of heat stroke. This is something that I think as we're getting more and more events that are in tents or in barns, Dan, we've talked about this. Mm-hmm. Air conditioning isn't in most of these facilities, and now we have to deal with that. And at for those of you who checked out the channel today on YouTube, there was I put a video up talking a little bit about one of my potential precautions for that. Dan, what has that been a problem? Have you noticed that you've had couples where they have struggled with in the warmer weather, or haven't you seen that?
Not necessarily. No, other than when I've had those situations, the couples and the people tend to be a little bit more chill. Like we're not getting them up and partying because they know that they can't handle it in the heat. I personally have been having more of a problem lately. In fact, it's on my to-do list for the next couple of weeks. I want to research a cooler suit, and not just because my style is horrible, but because I need something better to handle the temperatures. My wedding on Saturday was indoors, but our AC, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. The AC went out among everything else. And so I'm just dripping, just dripping wet. And in my head, I'm thinking, now, for this particular event, that would not have helped, but a fan of some sort is almost, I think, becoming a necessity to keep with you for those hot moments. Mm-hmm. And I will even say, even some of my venues that I would expect to be to have air conditioning and to be running it quite well, I don't know if they're just cutting back or if the systems are just not keeping up. Yeah. But it's just like nice venues, and I'm like, I'm roasting. Like, what's wrong here?
Well, and because of the heat and things being that thing, this is something actually I picked up not too long ago. It's a simple little personal fan, nothing fancy about it. It's got the little roll it up and such. What I liked about it, this is a rechargeable one, so you can plug it into a micro USB, charge it up, and it will last the whole show because it's got that big battery that that Howie would know what the number of this battery is, but I don't. Anyway, why I went with this particular one is in our cases, our Pro X cases, they've got those little holes for the wires to pass through. It sits right in there, and you can turn it. And then, so this is all that's showing, and it's just enough to give you that little air circulating past your face. And unfortunately, because heat has been affecting me more here in the last couple of years, Saturday it was kind of humid, a little sticky, but I mean it was 70. But you could just feel as you stepped away, it's like but getting that little air moving helped tremendously. So that's actually, I think, a $15 investment right there. That for my personal, for those in between times, I can throw that in my backpack. It goes in right next to my headphones, and I'm good to go. Now, the video I did earlier today, I have a bigger fan, not a huge one, but it's like a 10-inch fan, that a Honeywell Turbo one that moves a lot of air, and I want that for under the table so I can blow up. And I think, Dan, you mentioned you have a fan similar to that.
Not yet, but I'm getting one.
Okay.
After everything that's been happening lately, I am definitely getting one.
Yeah, and one of the things as I was looking at that and thinking about the Bride a couple of weeks ago is that if I could have had two of those fans like that, I could have put those under the table. And of course, because of the inverter thing we've been talking about, I could have literally put two of those under the table and had those blowing up towards the bride and groom on low. And it would move some air up from the bottom and kind of help to keep that air circulating with them. And yet I wouldn't have had to run extension cords and be taping it down. I could have literally just walked up there, boink, 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 put three things down, plug them in, turn them on, and let them go. And that might have, in her case, with the wedding, it probably would have helped her during that dinner time, because she like took 2 bites of dinner and she sat there and she's like, okay, I feel like I'm getting, and she drank a little bit, and because she was hydrating all day, but it just didn't help. And it wasn't because she was drinking alcohol. It was just a hot, humid day. So the overheating of the couple and being able to move air and such to them might be a really good idea for to have that option. I was at a venue last summer where they had these huge barn fans, these 4-foot blade barn fans, and they turned those things on and they were blowing them across the room at the head table. Both of them were aimed towards the bride and groom. Well, it's kind of like sound. If I've got a strong wind coming this direction and I got a strong wind coming this direction, where they hit and they meet, which happened to be right where the bride and groom were, you've got basically this dead zone where they're like, oh, we've got them covered from both directions. No, you don't. You've got them in this weird, if there would be more humidity, they probably have some sort of a storm cloud building right above them. Just sometimes people don't think, and it might be something to add to your arsenal, to have something you could do to help out to keep your couples from overheating like that.
I've seen a lot of people, you talk about that as they've used it I don't want to say they use it as a selling point, but like they've used it in some reviews. Like there's reviews that have been posted where the DJ just saved us, and there's like a picture and the bride is like standing over top of the fan or whatever. Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. To get that relief. Having that feature, thinking proactive, definitely good.
Excellent.
I'm surprised nobody's asked for it yet. Do you have details on that little handheld rechargeable one that you have?
I'm going to
other than Howie, who told us what the battery number is.
Yeah, he did. Where was it?
18650.
Oh, didn't it show up on my? It didn't show up on my chat. I'm so disappointed. Oh, there it is. It was way up there. Yeah, yeah, Howie's pretty quick. Yeah, I'll put the link in the description. It was something that I picked up from Amazon. The Comfort Zone. Da-da-da. There's a couple of other companies. Comfort Zone, obviously they're importing Chinese versions from China. There's a couple of them that were not using that type of battery, because I wanted that, so not only could I recharge it, but if I had to, I could pop it out and put a new one in. So yeah, that's because I've got some of those big batteries. The 18650 batteries. I have some extra of those. So thank you, Hal. Okay, let's move off. So obviously overheating could be a big disaster. So if we can help to avoid that, yay, rah, rah. Let's jump to, let's talk about the emergency kit. Because actually, once you brought that up, I saw 2 different posts on Facebook with people referring to this today. So I don't know if Facebook, realized you and I were going to talk about that tonight and wanted to beat us to the punch, or if it just so happened that was the big thing. So kind of go into that a little bit, Dan.
So this is something that I've heard about different times. Just different. Oh my gosh, I'm suddenly blanking on his name. Breakfast with the Game Master.
Scott Favor.
Thank you. I remember Scott. I couldn't remember the last name for a second. He is one of those guys that promoted this a while back, and probably was one of the first people I really saw that gave this idea of having a kit to not only protect yourself about any of those things that might come up, but also for your couple. So for example, safety pins. You were setting up, or we're bending down, we're moving, our pants might give out, and the last thing we need to do is kind of be showing everybody our tighty whities. Or you have a bride who her loop or whatever that holds on her dress suddenly decides that it doesn't want to hang on to this dress anymore, so a safety pin to be able to keep it up for her, or whatever might happen to be the case. I had a bride last week who the strap right here it didn't really hold her dress up, it was more decoration than anything else, but it ended up just snapping, like just breaking right on her shoulder. So they ended up rigging some sort of safety pin in there as well. So just having those kinds of things in your emergency kit, and you could actually search throughout even just DJ emergency kit, and you're going to come up with lists and lists and lists. I know guys that carry big toolbox size emergency kits, and just keep it in your trailer, keep it in your vehicle, so that it's available should it be needed. But what I thought was interesting, what I never would have thought of, was what you came back with, which was the idea of, especially to that ripped clothing, was black and white duct tape or even gaff tape. I mean, I was like, that's kind of almost extreme, but in the same respect, that's probably going to be a little bit quicker and for lack of better terms, hiding it better than maybe a safety pin might. Especially upon where that rip might be.
Yeah, to a point. Yes, I actually had one wedding where the groom had ripped out his pants in the crotch area, and he had, I don't remember, a colored underwear. So it was apparent. And it's like, all I have is that. And that was before I was carrying a sewing kit with me. Because I've got a little sewing kit that I picked up at Walmart that has like 4 needles, and it has black and white and gray and red and green, whatever, just a little bit of thread. But that's all I had. And I gave it to the groom, and he's like, "Can I go? And I'll be right back." Go do. So what he ended up doing is he went and he taped the inside. Let's see, how did he do this? He took one piece of tape and had it inside his pants that was not sticking anywhere. And then he covered that up with 2 pieces of tape, and he taped that to the inside of his pants going down to the rip. And then as a secondary, he took another piece of tape and taped it basically over his underwear in that area, so that if the other tape pulled out, at least it was black. And sure enough, after about half an hour, the other piece of tape kind of fell out. But because he had taped his underwear, you didn't see the color that there was. And he told me this later at the end of the night. He goes, "Yeah, you know how I was telling you how I did this?" He goes, "Yeah, that one piece came out right away." But nobody knew, because the black pants and the black. So yes, that was a very sticky gaff tape that we were using at the time. Yeah, Dollar Tree sewing kits. Robin's talking about, they're about $1, and that's easily the best way to deal with that. And of course, as it could help fix buttons and such. But yeah, the safety pins, and if you are buying safety pins, buy the multi-size packs so you have smaller and larger, because there are times where you need a bigger one, and there's been times where I've needed a smaller one. So I think in the Dodge, I have my truck that I use for DJing. It's what that's basically Jimmy refers to as his "oh crap" bag, which of course he tried to post it twice, and Jimmy, that gets cut, so you can't use that word. Use "oh shucks" bag. That will get you there. But anyway, that my Dodge is that bag. I mean, I carry some things in with my DJ backpack, but some of the bigger things are out there, and that's where I have the repertoire of different tapes, different color tapes, and the safety pins. The sewing kit's inside with me, but anything that's a little bit larger that I just know I don't want to have to carry around with me is out there.
I feel like we could almost do a whole show just on the things you could include in your emergency kit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Ben did a nice job with his, but his was for the tech guy, not for the wedding DJ. So yeah, maybe that one will be one we should put on our repertoire or on a schedule for a future one. So anyway, yeah, that's That is something. Having that bag and such for the emergencies. Because let's face it, if the bride's dress loses something and is falling apart, that becomes a mini disaster. Or the groom's pants and he's not wearing any underwear under that would be a major disaster.
You know, and it's one of those things that oftentimes a lot of things that we do behind the scenes, people don't know. And it's one of those adages, you know, you don't often get credit for the things you do. You get slammed for the things you don't. Saving your couple for a situation like that suddenly becomes something that you are now the hero. Like,
yes.
You could have played every single song wrong that night probably, and they would think of you as a complete hero because you saved them from being embarrassed on their wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just having that tucked away, I think is awesome.
And part of that is the and I haven't had this in the last couple of years, but the safety pin with the wedding dress, when all of a sudden the connections for the bustling came apart, broke, what have you, and couldn't hold the dress. It seemed like I don't know, 5, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, there was a summer that I had that happen multiple times. And at the time I was carrying safety pins with me all the time, and he popped those, and it's like, oh my gosh, you'd think I, saved the world, because now her dress, they could pin it up and she was able to function and dance again. So yeah, maybe I should move those back. Yes, Joe, there's commando at weddings. All the weddings I do, that's a requirement, on my contract. It's a rider. Wait, no, that's a,
you got some very interesting weddings there.
Yeah, exactly. We do. We are really into the eclectic, unique weddings up here. So I want to come back. I want to kind of wrap up with power at the very end. I want to use that one there. Let's talk about computer issues and how to handle that. One of the big disasters, and I've actually at 2 of my recent events, and this is me being kind of stupid. If you have a Mac, and all you Mac haters, line up, you're going to get your moment here. Just line up. Just get ready to type something. Actually, get ready to type, "See, I told you so." Okay. So if you have a Mac, and when they do system updates, which it could be a full system update or it could be a security update, generally they have to restart. They download, they restart, and then they install, and they restart again, and then the life is good. If you are DJing with it, or I started up to add music to it, and then it says, "Hey, we have a software update. Do you want to deal with it?" And it's like, if I click and go restart, most of the time it works fine. Occasionally they won't, and yet it'll restart, and then you think everything's good. But what it ended up doing is it downloaded the what it needed to do to install the new operating system, but it just didn't do it completely for some reason. And I've had this happen to me twice so far this year. It downloaded. I thought it would be great, and everything was good. I reopened the computer. Yay, rah, rah. Closed it up. Get to the show, and it opens up. Now it thinks that it's going to install that update at a show where there's no internet. Not that that's a big deal, because it should have been downloaded everything, but it didn't fully download the file. So now it's locked up and saying that it can't find the proper disk, and it can't do this, and the laptop is just basically dead on my MacBook Pro. Well, because I'm a Mac person, I told you so. Oh, that was you. Anyway, so because I'm a Mac person, I know that all I have to do is restart it. I have to change I can go up into the menu, and I can go and pick the startup disk and go back to the original disk instead of the disk image, and I can start and then throw that away, and everything's good, and I can function. But the first time of doing that, if you wouldn't know how to do that, like I was thinking, gosh, when I had staff, they would have seen that and they would have freaked out. They would have not known how to deal with it. And then for me to try to fix it remotely would have been not impossible, but it would have been very tough, because it's like, okay, now go up to the top and click on the blue apple in the upper corner. Do you see the blue apple? No. Oh, is it a black apple because of that iOS? Yes, that's it. It would have been that kind of a game. Go down to that and then click on that, and then go to that submenu and click on it. So computers locking up can be an issue. And that was the Mac part of it. PC, I know that, I think I remember, Dan, you talking at one time about an update, and that was kind of a frustration on your part, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anytime, I mean, the adage is you always want to be prepared. You always want to say, I'm going to update beforehand. And I've had where I've tried to do the update on a Monday or Tuesday, so that way I know of the entire week, so that I can check it, make sure everything's going to work and everything's fine. And it won't tell me that there's an update. Everything's fine. Friday, I get an email from the bride that says, "Oh, we need such and such a song," and you go, "Oh, I've got to add that. I've got to add that to the computer." Okay, we've got 5 minutes. I load it. Boom. Turn it off. Think everything's fine because nothing showed me update, but it downloaded something without I realizing it. You get to the event. You turn it on, and it goes updating. What updating? Like there wasn't supposed to be an update. Like that's happened to me a couple different times. And I will say, if you are a Windows 10, so John gave us a little plug for Mac. I'm gonna give my little plug for PC for just a moment. I use a lot of Mac stuff, but for my DJing, I use Windows. So there is a way to set your internet up as a metered device.
Okay.
Because you can't turn updates off now. That's the thing that's stupid.
Oh, you can't.
You can't. Like it won't allow you to stop it. So the workaround is you tell it that the Wi-Fi that you're using, like you set up for all of your Wi-Fi's to be metered, which means you're technically paying for the download.
Right.
So it won't download anything automatically.
Oh.
You have to force it to do it. Since I've done that, everything's been great, except for when I get on a new Wi-Fi and I forget to set up the meter part.
So you have to set it up. If it finds your home Wi-Fi, you have to set it up. If you go to a venue, every time it sees a new one, you have to return it on.
Every time you decide to get, yeah. So like, first off, I don't hook up to my venue's Wi-Fi, but let's assume for a second that I did because I needed to for some reason.
How do you stream your YouTube songs?
Well, that's another talk for another time.
That's the other show.
All my secrets away. Use my phone. No, but anyway, yeah. So when I'm doing those, the event or the places where I'm going to go on to, I make sure that I set that up, and then you kind of also do it to where you tell it you want to do the updates at like 3:00 in the morning. So you have kind of a double backup to make sure that it doesn't automatically download those when you're not ready. But we're not talking about how you prevent this from happening. We're talking about how you handle it if it does. So
let's talk backup. What's a potential possible backup? What are you using for that?
So I have an iPad that I've had for years. I think it might be it was the first time they called it the new iPad. I have one of those, and I had that hooked up all the time, running two different things. So first off, I use it because I use it to control my lighting, whether I'm using the Bluetooth feature for my new 4-bar, or whether I'm using it for, I use Show Express. So I have the live mobile, I think is what the app is called, for firing all my scenes. So that's hooked up, ready to go anyway. And then I just have DJ2, I think is what I'm using, the app with it just loaded with a couple songs. I have a fast one, I have a slow one, and they're loaded, ready to go. And I think I have the top 200 from somebody's list or whatever,
right, on
the computer. Emergency gives me a chance to kind of say, okay, buys me time because then I have a backup laptop in my backpack and an external hard drive and all that, so I can get that up and running while I'm messing with that. It's just, I don't want it necessarily to be to try and get me through an entire evening. I want it to get me through the next 10 minutes while I can mess around and figure out what's going on.
So you don't have you're not. So I've seen some guys that have on the top there. They've got both laptops set up. The main and the backup. So you're just one, and if that goes down, oh no, pull it out, new one in, playing from iPad, and hopefully you're good to go.
Yeah. So on my slide rail, I've got the computer on my left side, and I've got my iPad on the right. It fits both of them really nicely without being too big. Mm-hmm. And what's nice is I can even just lay the iPad flat, because I'm not really, I don't need to see it. I'm not using it for a monitor. I'm just using it to trigger some things. So that's where I use mine. To me, the two laptops, unless you're using a smaller screen, like a 13-inch screen, I just feel like it's too big.
Sure.
To me, and some guys are gonna be like, no, it's great, and I'm not knocking you, please don't. I'm just saying personally, I feel like two laptops side by side is big. But I've even seen some guys who do that and run deck like 1 and 2 on one screen and 3 and 4 on the other, and they're like doing some fancy stuff that I'm not even trying to.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's way beyond my skill level or whatever. But I've never set up both of them, and I've seen someone. It's like, should I? And it's like, I can get on a microphone and I can talk for 5 minutes.
So what if you're not using the 2-computer system, then I think you've mentioned before in the past also with everything you Mac, I'm assuming you're using an iPad.
Yeah, I've got an iPad. I've got a an iPad Mini, the Mini 4 that runs my lights, whether it's running the DMX Bridge app or if it's running the Bluetooth, it's running lights. Then I've got a regular size iPad that I'm using, an iPad Pro that could do the music side. But on that one, I've got all my music on there. That was my most requested songs. I pulled those off again last year and put them all into a folder and then transferred them all over. So the iPad's got, I don't know, 3,000 songs on it, something to that effect that it has on there. And then I also have DJ Pro and I have Spotify. So if I have internet and have that and with Spotify, and I have done a couple of shows where I've just used the iPad just to prove I could do it. Just some small backyard type shows, which, okay, I have my laptop over here if I need it, but let's see how far I can get with the iPad. And I had, that particular time, I only had 100 songs that were down. I wanted to see if I could do it with my 100 songs and Spotify. Could I DJ a full show? And yes, I was able to do a 4-hour show back and forth between Spotify and my 100 songs, because the way it just wasn't working, and I didn't have enough bandwidth to be able to stream to Spotify back to back. I had to go back and forth. But anyway, so yeah, that's in my backpack. I have the 2 iPads. I have my MacBook Air and I have my MacBook Pro. MacBook Pro is the main one. MacBook Air is the backup. And I would do similar to what you're doing, Dan. There is I would go boom, 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 and off I go is to flip them if I needed to.
A little advice: if you attempt to do the DJ app and Spotify, this is a lesson I learned just to see if I could do it. Kind of where there's like, see what happens. You actually have to be connected to internet for the DJ app to work with Spotify, even if you have downloaded the songs within the Spotify app. It won't work without internet.
It won't, yes. And it's like, sorry. And with Apple Music, if you download the songs, you can actually download playlists and different things through Apple Music that you can listen to. I don't think any of those are accessible through. I don't think those songs you download just to have access on your device are accessible. But if you buy them, I believe that they're accessible.
Yes.
But
yeah, bought songs you can.
But yeah, because on my was it on my phone or my tablet? I went through and it's like, oh my gosh, they've got this great 70s playlist. And because I have Apple Music, it's like, oh, download them for offline use. You betcha. And I went through there and I downloaded like 600-700 songs. And my thought was like, okay, I'm going to get these nice clean versions of these songs, as far as clean meaning quality rips and such of the tunes. Because some of those older ones, my rip was like a 128. Bleh. So it's like, oh, I wanted, and then I went into. It's like, why isn't DJ finding any of these songs? I was so sad. I cried a little bit. No, I cried a lot. It was pretty sad. Anyway.
And then you got out your computer and did it.
And then I went on the computer and went back to YouTube and started streaming songs off YouTube, and everything was great. Okay. Let's see. What's our next one? Cars. This is an interesting one. Disasters with vehicles. I haven't had this yet, and I
knock on wood.
I knock on wood. Part of my, and I've had staff who have had this one. Part of the reason why is that I don't believe in letting tires on that vehicle, that truck in there. It has super expensive tires, and when they get down to about half their life, which the guys are like, oh, you got another 30,000 miles on these tires. Nope, sorry, sir, we're replacing them. But you don't. I'm sorry, sir. We're replacing them. But it's like, which one of us is paying and which one of us is making money on this transaction? We're getting new tires. I had one flat on the freeway years ago, and I never want to have that happen again, because it's just a pain in the butt, and it'll happen when it's dark, it's rainy, and there's scary people coming up behind me. I'm not doing it. So it's my scary people thing.
But it can be interesting. I mean, here's the downside to it. I mean, whether you talk about letting go bald, or whether it's whether you pick up a nail,
there's so many possibilities.
Like that. I mean, it happens. I have a friend of mine who, their trailer, I mean, out of nowhere, the tire, I don't know if they picked something up, but the tire, like when they showed a picture of them having to change it on the side because they went, I don't even have a tire change, I don't have a thing for my trailer. The thing looked disintegrated.
Shredded.
Yeah. So, definitely, John's idea, making sure the vehicles in your car are up to date. You definitely want to make sure you're doing that almost ahead of the game, if you will. But then in addition to that, your trailer tires, if you're hauling a trailer, make sure that you're up to date on those. Make sure you're doing the torque that you're supposed to do. Make sure you're doing the lube on them that you're supposed to do, because a lot of times we don't think about it because it's just like, oh, I take it out once a week or I take it out twice a week and I put X amount of miles on it, and the rest of the time it just sits. All the more reason to make sure you're checking that out and keeping that up to date. And for what they cost, a spare tire from, say, Harbor Freight or something like that would be worth its weight in gold should you ever have an issue. The other thing that I'd recommend is make sure we can always Google it and everything else, but U-Haul. Make sure you've got a number for U-Haul or Ryder or some place that you can rent a truck from,
if
a box
needed.
truck of some sort, that, something goes down. Listen, I'm going to ditch my vehicle on the side of the road. I'm going to, put all the notes on and say, I'm coming back for this tonight. Please don't tow it. I had to go get a replacement tire, and then, get to where you need and unload it. But part of that's going to mean you're also going to have to make sure you're leaving early enough that should one of these disastrous type of thing happen, you got time to mess with it.
Yep.
And you're not suddenly going, I was supposed to be there, an hour ago and I couldn't make it because I got a flat tire. Because things happen and the right couple might understand that, but the wrong couple's not going to be happy that you were an hour late.
It's never going to be, it's never going to look good. Even with the right couple, there's always going to be that in the background, and you don't want that. In my situation, I've got the main truck, and then we have our Expedition that is in the house there. And I like to leave, if I'm an hour out, I want to make sure that if I get within five miles or so, and if I have to, I could call Lori and say, oh, something happened. And she would have enough time to get there, throw the gear in, and then get to the venue and still set up on time. I might be I might still be, not in the tuxedo before they come in type of thing, but we would have music and such before any of the guests arrive. And that means that sometimes I'm getting to the venue so early that it's like, okay, now backwards, now forwards, that kind of a thing, because you're there so early. But that's how I've also handled that. Yeah, it's tough. You mentioned U-Haul. U-Haul was, and I have only had a couple of experiences with U-Haul, but we did have a blowout using a U-Haul trailer once. And it took a long time, but you call the U-Haul number and they dispatch someone, they come out, they change the tire, and they get you back going and such. While that is nice, if it takes 3 hours for that tire to get changed, you're still going to miss the show. So just something to be aware of. On the way home, that would be certainly possible, but on the way there, if there's a blowout, you'd have problems. Well,
my thought was just, you're talking about they would come out and change the tire in your trailer, or one you rented?
One you rented. Yep. If you rent from U-Haul, they will take care of the tire and such and get you back up and going. It's just how much time it takes to get there.
My thought was, though, just getting one of those vehicles
as a backup. Would be.
You got two flat tires in a day from your own, and then the one you rented. Drive something else.
You definitely. You mentioned trailer tires, and most of the trailer issues happen because of cracking that go right down basically the treads of the tire. If you look at tires that have been outside in the sunshine, the sidewalls will look great. Maybe there might be some weather checking there, but you will look down and you'll see that there's cracking in the grooves of the tires. That is generally why trailer tires blow, because trailer tires should be between 50 and 80 pounds pressure, depending upon the size or the type of trailer tire it is. So the best way to prevent this is to go to an RV shop and buy these wheel covers. There's the cloth wheel covers, and you put them on, and you little Velcro around the back to hold it on. And what this does is basically it's a sunblock, protecting them from the sun. The sun is what kills tires. If you can keep them off the ground, ideally for storage, great. But just even if it's parked in your driveway or even in, around the corner in the grass, whatever, just keeping the sun off those tires is going to make them last a lot longer. I have one trailer that had, I did this, and I have a second trailer that I didn't. And that second trailer, 2 years, the tires are the same age, the ones that are 2 years later, and I need to replace the ones because they've been out It was one of these that there really weren't fenders on that trailer. So it's getting sunshine from morning to night, in essence. And you can see, as I was looking the other day, it's like, and we're only using that trailer to putz around here in the yard, so not a big deal. But if I were going to take that out on the highway, I'd have to get new tires on it and such to really feel safe about it. So, yeah. But I do like the having the U-Haul number, if you can find someone locally like that, or to have a friend who's got a truck and have them on call. Can I call you? Or probably 2 or 3 friends that have trucks that are outside of the DJ industry, so you know that they might be available.
Might just have the night off.
Yeah, or the night off. Yeah, no, that never works well. So, okay, so the last disaster, I think we were going to talk about. Oh, then we have one more there.
I thought we only got through 3 so far.
We talked about overheating, computer, car trouble, emergency kit. We're at 4. So now we're the 5th, and then we've got our bonus.
Yeah,
bonus one. So, talking about the power, and this has been kind of a big discussion, or big for those of you who follow Brian Red, Howie, myself. We've been talking a lot about power inverters and situations where electricity goes out. And wouldn't you know, I don't have any of them here to even show that this is what we've been talking about. It happens. Electricity goes out at a venue, and somebody, this guy I saw, posted a picture, and he mentions about this little mixer that he had that, it was because he could save. You remember who that was, Dan? I don't remember.
It might have been me.
Oh, it could have been. It could have been.
I have been doing this now. I've been DJing for 18 years. I have, as far as weddings, I have never had a situation of a power failure come out. And you guys start talking about power inverters and all this other kind of stuff. And what did you know? We're during cocktail hour Saturday night in a nice venue that, in the middle of the city, and transformer outside blew, knocked out about 3-block radius. Half a block away, they had power. Across the street, they had power. But in our venue, we had nothing. Yeah, it was not fun. It was not fun. And I'm sitting there going, first off, we didn't know if it was something local. We didn't know if something was in-house, but we knew the whole venue went out. So knowing what I know about how it's set up, I knew it wasn't just, I figured it wasn't just them. I figured it was something outside, and it was. So you have to have a backup plan for power, because what very easily could have happened for myself, because it was a transformer outside that was blown, it was going to be 3 to 4 hours was the window that the state utility company gave. The wedding would have been over. Like if I said, you know what, I got nothing, that wedding, they would have eaten and they would have gone home, and there would have been no dance. There would have been no introductions. There would have been nothing. And some people are like, well, I've got a clause in my contract that says if it's an act of God and I still get paid. Yeah. Let's see you go to your bride and go, you know what? I did jack squat for your wedding other than set my equipment up because there was a power failure, and you still owe me the full amount.
Yeah.
Whether that's legally true or not, I don't think it's leaving a good taste in anybody's mouth.
I would agree. Yep.
What was interesting was, I think it was Robin said, it would be nice if these venues had generators. This venue had a generator. The problem was they hadn't tested it in a couple of years.
Oh no.
So when the guy manager went out, he's like, all right, we're going to get it going. And it's not something that was going to power the whole venue, but it would have given us a little bit something to work with. They couldn't get it going. So he immediately got on the phone with all of his friends, and they got generators down, and the food was already prepared, which is very nice. I mean, it could not really, if a power had to go out, it could not have happened at a better time. It really couldn't have, because all of their end was taken care of and everything. So I feel it's important. You've almost got to have something ready to go, but I don't know at what point where that line is. Do I take my generator, literally, do I take my generator to every event?
All right. Because
to me, it's added weight, it's added space. it's fumes. I mean, it's gasoline that's, you know, swishing around in or whatever. But fortunately for me, I was 5 to 10 minutes from my house. So we did introductions with a battery powered podium system that they had that looked like it came from the 70s. And we got through it. And then I said, okay, I'm going to run home because we've got to have something, and this podium's not going to cut it.
Yep.
So during dinner, I ran home real quick, got my generator, brought it back. But if I had been an hour away, I'm out.
Sure.
And I don't think I like your battery system, but there's limits.
Oh, yeah, certainly there are.
I mean, especially on a system that's not going to get me through a reception. It might give me my first dance. It might give me a couple of the special dances, but we're still ending the power, or we're still ending the party, you know, 2-3 hours early.
Yeah. Well, for some people, in my case, it wouldn't, because I have 14 of the batteries in the bag.
Okay, so short of buying
for my
and charging them. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, because then you also have to make sure they're charged.
Yeah.
You know, and making sure that you're carrying the full, you know, make sure they hold their charge when you're not using them for a week or whatever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of variables. But yeah, that's for this, because of knowing the weather this past weekend, knowing that there was possibility of some storms in the distance, and if we did lose power, I had all 3 of my little inverters there with the 6 amp hour batteries and 9 amp hour batteries. So I figured in a worst case scenario, we were going to have sound and we were going to have some lighting in that situation. Before I started with those inverters, though, because of, we've kind of talked about this before. That's why I picked up that little Ryobi propane generator inverter, which is only 700 watts or something. It's really low wattage, but it's enough wattage to run a sound system that could actually play at a dance level compared to these inverters, which can't push that much energy through them. And I was going to literally put that in the back put it in a tote, put it in the back of the truck, and it's going to sit in the truck the whole summer. Well, so now after I've gone to these little 12 or these 18 volt inverters, it's like that becomes my backup. And I could run for 2+ hours, not at the same sound level, not running my subwoofers, but we could have a dance. And I use those Ryobi batteries for other things like the inflators and what have you. So they're constantly being utilized around. So for me, it works. But for folks who don't have the Ryobi stuff, it's not in that case, it's not a great idea.
It was funny though, because I had actually contemplated, and I was even sitting there on Saturday before everything happened, thinking about like the Bose S1 and a couple of these other ones, and even your Ryobi, because the way this venue is set up, it's I really love it. It's really cool in a lot of aspects, but their front room. So it's 3 rooms. It's like the front room is where you first come into. It's like a bar, lounge type area. Middle is like where the dancing happens, and the back is the dining area. In the front room, they didn't have power for the longest time that you could easily plug into. So I wanted to have something up there. And I'm like, you know what? If I had one of those units, I could just, because it's really just going to be for cocktail for all the longer that's going to be. It might be a great idea just to pick something up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was actually thinking, and then that night I'm like, oh man, if I had one of those, but then I'm like, unless I buy, 14 of them, I'm not getting through the event. But here's the other downside. Some of your venues don't easily have an access to get outside to run a cable outside, because you can't run a generator with the fumes inside.
Exactly. Yep. That was a huge concern also.
I mean, that's actually what we ended up having to do, is we moved everything to the back room because there was an outside door to that room, where the middle one is kind of in the middle of the building. There's no easy way to run some cords. One of my local DJ friends, he saw my post from Saturday night, not the one I put in the insider group, but just my general, hey, this is the party going on type of post, and didn't really mention anything about the power failure, because I like the venue and I don't want anything to come bad press because it was something happened out of their control. Because how did they allow you to do that in the back room?
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I was like, well, we didn't have power and we needed to run cables outside. And he was just like, wait a minute, you ran home to get a generator? Yeah. It shocked him that somebody would do that.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Well, for a lot of people would be like, "Oh, sorry," and that's the end of it. I'll see ya. Okay, last one, which would be our bonus one because we've kind of covered 5. But the last disaster is the situation where a speaker dies, and our good friend Superfly mentioned when I was up in a post on my Facebook page. If you guys aren't following my Facebook page, sometimes there's questions, there's show links, facebook.com/JohnYoungMN. You guys go out there, follow my page. But Superfly mentioned that he was running his speakers all the way wide open on the gains on the speaker, and of course he ended up blowing the speaker up because he was pushing them beyond the scope of what they could do. That whole idea is that if you lose a speaker, what do you do? And this you guys will see tomorrow in a video. I'll talk about this in tomorrow's succession of videos. 3 videos dropping tomorrow. One is showing my Saturday layout. The second one's talking about how I threw $250 away, and the third one's talking about taking a speaker apart. Put these things together, you kind of figure out what happened. But you lose a speaker. You had this plan. I'm going to be having either a 4-speaker sound system, a 3-speaker, or a 2-speaker sound system for the wedding, and one of them isn't functioning. How do you handle that in your situation, Dan? What do you do for that?
Well, I'm lucky in some ways because a long time ago, I decided to make sure I always had my ceremony system and my reception system with me, whether I was doing a ceremony or not. It just comes along in the trailer. It doesn't take up any more space than I would be using anyway. So if I have something goes down, I just go out and grab whatever system I'm not using. If I'm doing a big event, I've got my EKXs, then now I'm bringing out my Evolve to kind of fill that spot, or the flip.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always got those speakers with me. I don't have a matching 3rd speaker. That's where it gets kind of, I guess, a little unusual. I've also got a set of speakers that I have at home should I need to send one in for repair.
Gotcha.
So I do have a 3rd set that I actually at one point contemplated selling, and then was like, you know what? If I ever have to send something in or take it someplace, now I'm out. So I better just hang on to these.
Yeah, for sure. And those would be a really good quality backup speaker for sure. Yeah, this is an area that I always went with that philosophy that, well, I've got 2 tops and 2 subs, whether I was running the Bose or whatever I was running at the time when it was 2 powered tops, and whether it's the EV where I'm doing the EKX, the 2 tops, 2 subs. And it's always, well, I could get by with 1 top and 2 subs if I had to. And I could get by with, if I lost a sub, I could get by with 2 tops and 1 sub. But this past week made me think a little bit more about this. And I think this is going to be one of these things that I'm going to get a small speaker and, like a little 8-inch powered speaker of some sort, and have it in a nice padded bag in the back of the truck and just sitting there as a backup. And kind of similar to what you're doing with your ceremony, is it's always there. I don't carry my ceremony sound system with me all the time because that is a separate little thing, and I guess I could, but I think the one I use for sound system isn't that strong of a sound system or what have you. It's a little stage pass. It does a nice job, but it's not. I could do better with a different cabinet. Let's put it that way.
I will say this, one of the things that I would even encourage, I like your idea, don't get me wrong. One of the things I might encourage, I've run into a situation where I went in thinking I was going to use my Evolves.
Okay.
Got there, got a better feel, not just for the venue, but like as I'm getting there, but I start seeing the bridal party and I go, you know what? I start seeing some of the guests or something like that, as not necessarily they're setting up, but like the friends of the bridal party. What I'm saying, like they're already there because they're the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And I go, you know what? It might be in my best interest to bring in the EKX and bring in the subs. And now, now I'm going to have more of a clubby type of bassy feel. So as a result, that's when I started actually carrying both of them. because I didn't want to get to the venue thinking because I wasn't doing the ceremony. I'm like, well, I don't really need it. Because if one speaker goes down, I still got the other set. I'll get through it, like kind of what you were saying. But then I got thinking, you know what? I always want to make sure, it's kind of that be prepared motto, how he often talks about our Boy Scout backgrounds from that, having that ready to go. I get that, I get there and go, you know what? I was going to do this, but let's take a left turn. Let's go this way with it. And just, it makes it nice because you have it right there available. And it makes it nice if you have a failure that you need to like take care of immediately.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Backup gear. Gotta have it.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's it. That's our 5 plus our bonus to start with and our bonus at the end. So the moral of the story, don't go out fishing during a lightning storm. If you take nothing else away from this show, remember that.
In a metal boat.
In a metal boat.
Fiberglass, I think you're okay.
Probably, maybe no, you'll probably still die. Or
How do
you'll get
people live in houseboats then?
They might just straighten out the hair.
People live in the ocean? They get struck all the time.
Yeah, they probably do. That's probably why they're crotchety too.
Maybe.
Excellent. Well, we had some good conversation going on here on a chat board. Thank you guys for chatting it up tonight. Between a Facebook chat and the YouTube one, we had some good conversation going tonight.
Unfortunately, it sounds like a lot of you have had issues in the past. So I feel bad that you've had, but in the same respect, I do feel like a lot. I know I was picking up some of the stuff that you were mentioning in the chat, just going, oh, that's a good idea. I might have to add that to my Be Prepared bags.
Yeah, for sure. For those of you who are watching this on Facebook or you're watching it later, one of the cool things, not only is whatever topic we're talking about is usually this much of the show, but the chat room is where they really talk about the important things. I mean, we're just here to give them a reason to all come together and share knowledge because they're the smart ones and we're just here because someone has to be on the screen. And we drew the short straw.
We did
once again. Anyway, take us home, Dan.
Well, thank you very much again for tuning in for us tonight, with us tonight and enjoying some time. A lot of great shows, of course, coming up this week. John mentioned, if nothing else, make sure you're checking out that 3 video set that he's going to be dropping tomorrow. And if he doesn't, then you can yell at him because he promised it tonight that it was going to happen. So
7, 9, and 11. East Coast, 8, 10, and noon. East Coast time.
Oh, wow. He's even got times for it.
They're scheduled. They are ready to go.
Nice. Awesome. So tomorrow you're going to make sure you check out those videos as well as all other great ones that are coming. Of course, him and Brian Red are going to be doing their show tomorrow night, as well as many other ones. Stay on the email links, find out what's happening, and we will be back here next Monday. Have a great one.